Thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with the Daily News Hub. The major story there: federal government intervenes in Dangote NMDPRA face-off. Federal government intervenes in Dangote NMDPRA face-off. That is the petroleum midstream and downstream sector there. They're talking about the NMDPRA. And the writer there says, moves to resolve dispute as minister meets with Dangote federal government agencies. And then the story, hashtag end bad governance, how Tinubu can avert nationwide protest. NLC president is saying that. And another story, people in NNPC don't want subsidy scam to end. Emir Sanusi is quoted as saying that. At the top corner there, Edo Guba Ighodalo floors Tribal at appeal court affirmed by judge as PDP candidate. Those are some of the stories you'll find on the front page of the Daily News Hub. And to the front page of the Daily Trust now, still talking about the minister's intervention in Dangote NNPCL, NMDPRA, NUPRC brawl. And another story here. Well, that's the major story on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And we'll move now to the front page of the Salient Times, still talking about the NMDPRA Dangote spat. Lokpobiri, NMDPRA, NUPRC, NNPC leadership meets with Dangote. The writers there, Reps panel probes NMDPRA's substandard petroleum products claim, invites Dangote. Saboteurs threatening to destabilize petroleum sector, Akpabio. Non-availability of crude to refineries, threats to energy sector. At the downstream here, a very disturbing story. Ondo varsity student gunned down at hostel. A sad one there. Another story quickly before we move on. NLC asks Tinubu to invite leaders of planned protest to address citizens' grievances. Those are some of the stories you find on the front page of the Salient Times. To the Platform Times now. Emir Sanusi to NNPCL, keep quiet. Fix the mess. FG snaps our refinery to export crude oil to Indonesia. Dangote. Court dismisses Abacha family's 500 million naira suit against federal government over Abuja property. And another story quickly before we move from here. Police arrest prison escapee behind general's murder in Kano. All right, some stories on the front page of the Platform Times. To the Punch newspaper now. Fuel crisis. Marketers project 700 billion naira monthly subsidy. And NPC mom as dealers insist government still paying subsidy. Reps probe crude shortage. Dangote eyes foreign markets for refinery products. Federal government meets Kyari. Dangote over dispute. Immigration officer, 3 others arraigned for drug trafficking. Edo Ighodalo's candidacy upheld, Shaibu fined 1 million naira. Windfall tax, federal government insists on sanctions for defaulting bank chips, proposes to 10% penalty on withheld levy. Now, organized private sector opposes fresh interest rate hike. Global banks to inject $7.5 billion into Nigeria power sector. Those are some of the stories you find on the front page of the Punch newspaper. To this Nigeria newspaper now, Senate begins probe of alleged economic sabotage in petroleum sector. Minister Lokpobiri waits into Dangote Petroleum Regulatory Authority crisis. Now, another story. National Assembly wants domestic servants included in 70,000 naira National Minimum Wage Scheme. That's an interesting one. And the writer there, President's wife commends reps on bill seeking 70 slots for women. NGO mobilizes support for Wike over smart city projects. Some stories on the front page of this Nigeria newspaper. And to the pointer now. Alleged adulterators feel importation, reps begin investigation. And that's the major story there on the front page of the Pointer newspaper. To the Daily Independent newspaper, aviation fuel at 1,550 naira per litre holds back sector, pushes fares sky high. Hardship, NLC President advises Tinubu on how to avert proposed protests. Federal government brokers peace as Lokpobiri meets Dangote, NMDPRA, NUPRC, and NPCL. That's the story there on the front page of the Daily Independent.
I begin here with Nigerian News Direct. The big story here says, no protest needed. We're tackling hardship, economic downturn. Tinubu appeals. We share your pain, halved our salaries. That's according to the reps speaker. Dialogue with protesters, avoid confrontation. NLC president urges the federal government. The Christian Association of Nigeria, Labour, Student Union, others, the Son planned protest back the federal government. Federal government waits in to resolve tussle between Dangote and NMDPRA. We will utilize a 6.2 trillion naira extra budgetary proposal to boost infrastructure, according to the federal government. And after 13 years, Bayelsa gets approval for National Park. The major stories on the front page of Nigerian News Direct. To the first news, you cannot smack a child and ask them not to cry. NLC begs Tinubu to engage planned protest leaders. President talks to youth, Ndume concurs. Anti-government protest claim Igbophobic hateful, says Juanese, as Utomi threatens 500 billion suit, demands proof. Protest will start at the FCT. Showore replies, CP's call on resident to shun planned demonstration. Minister hosts a crucial meeting with Dangote, NUPRC, and NPC leadership. Reps launches probe into importation of substandard petroleum products. Army hands over Chibok girl, 330 others rescued from Boko Haram terrorists to Borno government. Appeal court upholds PDP primary, keeps Ighodalo as candidates. The major stories on the front page of the first news.
All right, we need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue looking through the newspaper headlines. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking through the newspaper headlines, and Olamide, you were on.
Yes, just before the break, we were taking a look at the major stories on the front page of the first news. So we move to the Daily Times. NLC to President Tinubu address public grievances amid looted national protests. The writer there says NLC is urging the president to invite protest organizers for dialogue. Tinubu traditional religious leaders caution youth against planned protests. Reps to sanction agencies cause over alleged $60 billion inflated cash calls. Again, court dismisses Abacha family's 500 million suit against the federal government over Abuja property. The major stories on the front page of the Daily Times. To the New Telegraph, eating from dust bins, now luxury. Address cries of Nigerians, NLC tells Tinubu. Abbas raises the alarm over food insecurity, allegation against Obi Ononuga Igbophobic, uncouth. Ohaneze says. Reps begins probe of adulterated fuel. They cry non-availability of crude to local refineries. We'll deal with you like ghost, Enugu security agencies warn stay-at-home promoters. Nigeria's GDP likely to lose $122 billion in 1 year. Obi says leaders busy funding lifestyle amid poverty. The major stories on the front page of the New Telegraph. To The Guardian, over 30,000 jobs lost to closure of manufacturing firms in 4 years. Federal government, Dangote, NMDPRA meet explore solutions to refinery crude crisis. On the GDP ranking, it's been 9 years of retrogression. Obi laments. The major stories on the front page of The Guardian show the leadership. 1 week after, 21 states await truckloads of grains. That's on the federal government palliatives. Anambra, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Kwara, Rivers take delivery. Labour ask President Tinubu to dialogue with protest leaders. Yobe will not join the protests, says Governor Buni. Christian elders write Tinubu NAS seek new constitution. Another 12 schools are at risk in Jos, at risk of collapse in Jos. That's according to the governor of Plateau State. The major stories on the front page of the leadership to The Nation. Why banks should pay levy on forex windfall. That's according to the Minister of Finance, Wale Edu. And the big story here is that Vice President Diabetes Association of Nigeria calling on the president to please pay for their payment for their treatment. To the blueprint, 50% levy in 2024 amendment bill targets banks only. Federal government now says decision may put future investments at risk. The major stories on the front page of the blueprint. And finally on Sporting Life, Osimhen's PSG move doubtful. Nigeria open to staying with Conte at Napoli. Man City to accept €40 million for Edison. And these are the major stories on the front page of the newspaper this morning. Veronica.
Interesting. I believe that our viewers have been updated, and so they can pick any of the papers and get more details. We have to move quickly now. Kebbi State is making giant strides in infrastructure development to help improve quality of life for residents of the state. Join us after the break as we speak to a government official from the state on this. Stay with us.